Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the Sikh Spectrum program. Today we're in Stevenage and we're going to interview Manjit Singh Ahluwalia, who is the sales general manager here. So let's go in and interview him. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today on the Sikh Spectrum, we've come to Stevenage to interview the General Sales Manager, whose name is Manjit Singh Ahluwalia, and we will talk to him being a Sikh, having a turban, keeping a beard, and the how successful I think Manjit has been in the local area, where there are very, very few Sikhs living here. So Manjit, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So let me start by asking you a few questions about your background. Sure. So when you tell me about your family and where you grew up and that sort of stuff.
Sure. I was born in the UK. My parents are obviously from India originally, but they were first generation from Africa. So they're born in Uganda. Both my parents, mum and dad, and they came over to the UK in early 71, just before the whole Idi Amin troubles. So I was born, when they first came over, they were in Hounslow, in Heston area.
Right.
So I was born in that area. But then my dad in this country took on initially he worked, but then he took on businesses. So he had post offices and stores. So we ended up moving around the country based on where his businesses were. So I've moved around quite a bit with family. So we were originally, from being in Hounslow, we moved into sort of Aylesbury, and then later on we moved into Oxford. And Dad always moved because of wherever the businesses were that he'd be looking to buy. So I've had an upbringing in different locations. But interestingly, most of the locations I've ever lived in or worked in have been very, very few Asians or very few Sabajis or Sikhs in those areas. So
right. And what did your dad do in Uganda?
So in Uganda, obviously my grandfather was there as well. Originally my grandfather had stores and businesses over there, but so my dad went into transportation, so he used to transport from around that area, different countries. So for example, like he'd have a fleet of trucks and they would bring coffee, cotton from different parts of, say, the Congo into Uganda, into Kenya, and move it around. So it was we started from a very small business, but became a lot larger. Hasten to say, when he had to leave all that and come over, it was a bit of a shock, right? So had a great life out there, great weather. Never knew anything different. And when he first came here, it was a bit of a surprise because they came in the 70s, but they came in the winter months, so a real shock. So
it wasn't. He didn't, as you mentioned, it wasn't because of the trouble with Idi Amin. He left just before that, did he?
Yeah, my dad always explains it that a lot of people were on permits. So they had work and residence permits in Africa, and his permit wasn't renewed prior to the trouble starting. So it's a bit of a call to sort of say, look, we're not going to renew your permits. My chacha had already come over to the UK to study and to work, and so had my buaji as well. So it made sense for my dad to come over here, given that he had family already in the UK. And I think at that time, before the troubles, because we were part of the British, you had a choice. You could either go back to India or you could explore out Canada or America or the UK. But given we've got family here, it made sense to come over here. So. Right.
So, and where did you go to school then? Where was your education?
So my education, because I was born and we lived in Hounslow, Heston area from when I was born. I remember going to school in that area when I was at nursery, but my main schooling was when we moved to Aylesbury. We moved to Aylesbury, and my parents had a shop in a village called Stone, just outside of Aylesbury. I did my infants and juniors there, and I was there from the age of 5 through to 12. And again, in that school, I was the only ethnic minority. There was no Asians at all. There was no blacks, no Sikhs, no. So it was quite a change from where we'd been. but actually, you know, given the strength of like what my parents have always instilled, which is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether, you know, you stand up for and you are who you are, and you just explain and live your life. And in fact, if you let people into your world, then they'll understand it better. And in fact, it doesn't matter, you know.
And what about brothers and sisters then?
I have one brother. He's older than me. He's 5 years older. He's currently living in America. He's gone over for he says a few years, but we'll see. But yeah, no. So just the two of us, me and my brother. My brother's involved in IT. He's a contractor in IT. But yeah, no. So quite a small family, as in just my parents and my brother. But in terms of extended family, yeah, we have, you know, all of my mum's family, bar one, are in the UK. And my dad's family, we have, you know, probably a bit of a split. There's a brother and sister here, but there's also some brothers in America and Canada. So,
what about going to university then?
Yeah, so that was interesting because my parents were very keen on education. You know, like a lot of, you know, Asian backgrounds, and we want to, you know, push for education and to better yourself and then to see a better career. I was, from a younger age, I was quite clear I wanted to progress into something to do with the motor industry. I didn't know what, and the reason why that was is my dad's had a passion for cars all his life, and as I grew up, I watched him change cars. You know, sometimes Dad would change cars every few months. You know, it was his thing. Often sort of, Mum would often complain and say, you know, we've just got used to a car and you're going to change it, but that was his thing, and I grew up with that. And I used to love the whole going to see cars, watch Dad negotiate, bringing home a car, etc. So from very early on, I used to say to Dad, you know, I want to look at that as a field. But Dad said, that's good. But before you look at a field that you want to go and work in, you know, I need to see an education, just to better yourself, to push yourself. My brother had already been to university by this time, so I did university. I went to university in Wales. It was the University of Cardiff, but I also studied in Newport, so it was based around the south of Wales. And again, after having lots of discussions about what I wanted to do, I mean, early on I had views that I wanted to go into sort of, not necessarily medicine, but maybe go into pharmacy and such, but having studied chemistry at A-level, I found it very, not so much difficult, but it did inspire me to what was next in a working world. So when I went to uni, I went into management. I did IT, business IT, so I got a bit of a cross between business and information technology, because I knew that IT was going to be a big part of, you know, the world or any business that you went into. So I studied there between 94 and 97. I was there for university. At that time, my parents lived in Oxford, so I used to travel over and then come back at weekends. And that's when I started my working world. At that time, you know, I decided I needed to do something to try and get into, because I'd always worked in Dad's businesses. I'd worked for Dad in Dad's shops and helped, etc. But it came to a point where you think you need to go and now apply yourself outside of what you know, and to see what working outside is like. And that summer, before I went to university, I applied a few different places. I applied for sales positions actually at Dixon's, applied to go and work in the store for Next, for clothes retailing. And again, funnily enough, I got offered by both, and I decided to go to work for Next.
Right. So
I used to go in on a Saturday and, you know, be on the shop floor and help customers selling. And in them days, you know, Next was slightly different to it is today. You know, we used to do tailoring as well. We used to be able to get made-to-measure suits, and there was an element of selling involved, but certainly dealing with customers was a big part of it. And I stayed with Next while I studied, so I used to come back at weekends from university, see Mum and Dad, you know, get all your washing done, etc.
Like most kids do, yes. Yes.
Get a sort of re-energise myself. My parents were very keen on that, because also that meant that they could keep a check, I think, because, you know, given what I know now as I'm a bit older, but certainly from my dad's point of view, it was his way of ensuring that, you know, certainly my Sikhi, what he had instilled for so many years wasn't lost with me being out of sight.
Right, I mean, that was a question I had for you, but, because where you grew up, there couldn't be many gurdwaras like in Oxford, in Aylesbury, even in Wales, I would think.
No, you're right. I mean, when we were in Aylesbury, the nearest gurdwara was Luton, which we would go to, or we'd go to Southall. So Dad would take us every weekend to Southall, and we'd go to Southall, have Havelock Road Gurdwara every Sunday. We have family obviously in that area, so we'd finish after Gurdwara and visit family. And if we had any functions that we held as a family, like Akhand Paths and such, you know, we would do them at Luton, because it was a slightly smaller Gurdwara where we could, you know, congregate as a family. And you're right, even in Oxford it's the same thing. You know, there was a Gurdwara which was sort of very locally by the community held, but it was sort of what I refer to as a part-time. You know, families would get together and hold a part and do kirtan. But we as a family would still travel down to Southall and be part of the congregation there. So we've always done that. Yeah.
What about your personal family then, in terms of what, you married and children?
Yeah, yes, I am. I got married in 2000. My wife's from Southampton, and I now have 3 children together. So we've got 2 boys and a girl. Been married for 12 years, but we started our family sort of a good 4 or 5 years after we got married. So yeah, no, they're all, you know, funnily enough, I talk about living in locations with my parents that were sort of obscure. I mean, I've done the same again now. I mean, I live in a village which is 20 minutes north of Stevenage. And again, there's very little ethnic minorities, or certainly no Sikhs that I know of. I mean, there has been a Sikh living or a Sikh family in Potton many years ago, but they've moved into another town nearby. So again, you know, similar situation to how I grew up. My children find themselves in the same situation. So.
Okay, so let's talk about when did you start working here then? How long has that been at this particular BMW garage?
I've worked here for just over 10 years, 11 years nearly. I've been in the car industry for 2 years prior to that, working for Volkswagen and Audi, and that was working for a PLC. And the only downside with them was I was always moving around different locations. So at that time I lived in Stevenage, and BMW Specialist Cars was a very renowned business. It's always been a big business in this area. And when I first moved here, you know, I did a tour around, as everyone does when you move to a location, and saw this business. And I was actually with my parents. I remember saying to my parents, you know, wouldn't it be great to one day to work here? We actually stopped and sort of walked on site. I think I bought a place here, and we went out for lunch or dinner that evening, and we were driving around. I said, Dad, I've got to show you this place that I've seen. And you know, we parked in the car park. It was closed, and we wandered about. And I said, wouldn't it be great? And actually, my dad and my mum both said, well, you know, why really get by, and you'll, you know, why not? You know, why not? Why is that? You know, why are you saying it as if it's something that you can't do? And you know, things went on. I worked in Stevenage for another Volkswagen dealer for 9-10 months, and wasn't really feeling like I was going anywhere with those businesses I worked with. And I emailed these guys here. I said to them, you know, I'm looking for opportunities. You know, what can I come and do for you? And they invited me in for a chat. Had a long chat like we're having now, and they said, you know, we like what we see, but we don't actually have an opportunity at the minute. And I said, okay, well, bear me in mind. You know, let me know when something comes up. I live here, you know, and I want to come and work for you. A very short while later, they called me up and said, would you come in for a chat? We want to talk to you about an opportunity with a new franchise we're going to be starting, which is Mini. So this was in 2001. So they said, well, we're going to launch Mini, and it's a whole new business, if you like, to what we have with BMW. So I said, well, great. And I could sense initially it was, you know, would I be interested in that, or was I only coming for BMW? And I said, well, no, I'm coming actually because I want to work for this business. Right. I'm not too fazed by what brand. I want to come and work for you as an employer. And that was that. They gave me the position of a mini manager, effectively, a mini sales manager. They said, you know, come in, set it up. You know, you'll need to recruit a couple of sales guys and then see how it goes. And I think we all know how well Mini has done as a brand in this country and globally. And I joined, and we set it up, and you know, it took off. You know, for the first 2-3 years, you know, we just couldn't get enough cars to sell. It was a fantastic opportunity for me, but also for the business. And then I ended up managing that site for, you know, that side of the business for a good 5 years.
Actually, let me ask you a question about that then. As in this industry where it's sales, there's always this issue that you know, maybe people come into the shop and they don't want you to be at the front, because there is that. I'm not even saying it's a myth, because I know that, for example, for women magazines, the Cosmopolitan are always saying that their sales drop when they have black people on the front cover. Did you feel any pressure coming in to become the manager of the Mini, because that was a big launch for BMW?
No, I didn't. I mean, when I first went for interview for a car sales position, I did feel that. You know, there's a few places I interviewed, and you know, they didn't need to say anything, but I could sense that it was a case of, we like what we see, we like what your CV says, but how would our customers feel, and how would it work, and etc. I could sense that. But the guy that initially gave me my break in the car industry, you know, he took a different view. He said, you know, there's two things here. You know, if I give you a job, you're going to be so memorable. You know, every other salesman that you deal with, you'll either forget their name, you'll forget, you know, where they sat, etc. Because with you, they're never going to forget. They're going to come in, they're going to deal with you, and if they forget your name or where you were sat in the showroom, they're going to come in and say, no, I dealt with the guy with the turban. And that's exactly what happened. And actually, he reversed it. He said there's two things. So they'll never forget you, and that's a great thing if you give good service. If you mess it up, they'll never forget you as well.
True.
So, and that was the break I needed. And I in myself, I kind of knew that if I could get a break and I could show what I could do, then I don't think it will matter how I look. Because ultimately, I'm a true believer that, yes, you've got to be smart, you've got to make an effort and dress well and give an impression of what people expect within a BMW business or any business. But ultimately, when you're an employer, you're looking for someone who can do a job for you well. And I don't think having a dari, having a bug, you know, or what colour you are makes any difference. I think that's something that we hide behind ourselves or can be fearful of. And that's been my view on it. I mean,
so is it that so you grew up, not that like some kids go through a phase where they take the turban off, go to university, then they come back to it. You didn't do any of that then?
No, I didn't do any of that.
Right.
Sikhi in my dad's family certainly is very strong. We've got generations that have never and that was one thing that's been instilled in me from when I've been a child. You know, one thing, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, what situation you're in, the one thing you do not ever lose sight of is your faith, your religion, that you're a Sikh. And I give an example about that. I mean, when I was a lot younger, I looked for part-time work, and a friend of mine got me work within McDonald's. And I went for the first day, I got the job, went for the first day, and they said, you know, you can't work here because you've got a dari. And my response was, fine, I don't want the job, you know, because ultimately I'm not going to change myself for a job or for anything else. This is who I am. This comes first to me. And ultimately, I think, as I've grown up, I think I've seen a lot of people, you know, give the reasons, excuses as to why they can't be a Sikh or see themselves wearing, you know, the turban or the dari. But I think they're things that you need to contend with internally. I don't think anyone else, you know, I mean, I have, you know, staff here work with me here, and you know, it's never been a question. You know, in fact, I get more compliments to the fact that I make more effort than some of them with the way they say you come in looking so smart. But you know, that's down to me and making that time, right?
No, and I think, Manjit, to be honest with you, when I've gone around trying to interview people, what I have discovered is that those that feel comfortable in it, like you've lived in areas that are small villages, yet you've kept your dastar and your beard, and you feel comfortable in it, and the same thing with the schools. No, I think that's a good role model, and that's what I've been trying to do by finding people that have not necessarily but I think it's quite nice to meet people that are refreshing. And that's how I see you. So let me ask you about your links with the community then. Okay. What sort of community work do you do?
I'd like to do more, I think, because there's always opportunity to do more with community. I feel I could do more with the Gurdwara locally here. I mean, you know, we attend, but again, you know, you were the first to tell me I could do more. But certainly, I have started to get involved with where my kids go to school. I was asked to join one of the governors at my kids' school, which I did 3 years ago. I thought it was a good opportunity to sort of, you know, show our, again, you know, being a minority in that area, to get involved, but it also to, you know, be part of a school that my kids are going to go through. You know, at that time, my youngest was just starting. I took the view that actually I'm going to have my other two go through the same school, so actually to be part of that school, to see its progression, to get involved with the inner workings is good. We live in a village, so it's a very small community, so, you know, I don't as such get involved in any events and such there, but I'm part of that community, and I think going back to your question about living I think living in places where there's less Sikhs or ethnics, I think it's even more of a reason to really show who we are, because actually, you know, in those areas they may never experience anybody else, and actually it's our responsibility then to, one, be more open, explain who we are, and I think that's one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of times people who I meet who don't know about Sikhi or don't know why we wear turban, our willingness to sort of discuss it maybe at a very low level, is missing. You know, I take the opportunity whenever I came at work to explain, because I can see people looking at me and sort of thinking, "Why, you know, how does he do this? You know, is it trimmed? How do you get that?" And of course, I think it's good that they want to ask, and two, it's our responsibility to explain why we do what we do.
Yes, yes. I think that in small villages that, you know, families like you, I think personally, have kept that, how in Punjabi they say Sikhi da kinka, is certainly in people in villages. See, there's a guy in Plymouth that's exactly the same. He sent us an email on the Sikh channel. I was quite surprised. Who lives in Plymouth who are Sikhs? And so, no, I think that's really good that you're a governor of a school and you're taking part in that and so on. But what about in terms of the Sikhs? That's something that you do for example, the school, because your children go there. Is there anything that within the Gurdwara or anything else that you're doing for Sikhs or not?
No, I mean, you know, personally, I would like to do more. I think, you know, I need to make more time. That's something that's definitely on my sort of, if you like, my agenda, to try and give more time. I get lots of opportunities too. I think sometimes, you know, the balance between my young family and work, I should try and get that balance right. And I think in the next few years, certainly that's what I want to progress into. But yeah, it's a challenge. You know, that I think making that time, you know, there's always too many excuses as to why you can't do something.
No, that's true. What about your own career progression now? I mean, you already hold the general sales manager, which is a very senior role, I think. Do you think you want to move in the next 5 years somewhere else? I mean, I know it's a typical sort of
sure.
interview question,
yeah,
but
sure.
Do you see yourself, or are you quite content here, or what?
No, I think I'd like to sort of see how far I can go with my career. I think as a brand with BMW now, I've given, you know, with Mini and with BMW, I've been with them now 11 years. So I think I found a brand and I think when you give so much to a business and understand how it works, then to change brands would be difficult for me. So I think I will stay within this network unless something changes in the years. I mean, the next stage for me would be to go ahead and manage a whole site. So, you know, in our business, you have, after you manage a division, if you like, so I'm looking after retail sales, you can then go into managing the whole business, which would mean you look after the whole site, including after sales, parts, etc., and the sales side. And yeah, I would definitely would. I mean, my dad will always say, you know, why stop there? You know, why not look to buy your own business after that? And I'm like, well, one step at a time. Let's see what we can do. But yeah, no, that is my personal plan, is if I can progress, and that's what I've done in this industry, has gone through all the phases. So sold cars as a retail salesman, then progressed into sales management, then into sales manager and general sales manager. So I've carried on through, and that's what I'd like to carry on doing, yeah, definitely.
Okay, I mean, I didn't, one thing I didn't quite understand about the whole BMW setup is that they're all owned privately or by, you know, independent individuals that own them, but just it's like a franchise.
Yeah, so in the UK we have 150 dealers, and they're all franchise dealers, apart from one, which is the dealer in Park Lane. And broadly speaking, you've got a split of some of the businesses are owned by PLCs, some are very small groups, and some are privately owned by one person. I work for a business that's a small group, which is privately owned. So there are two guys that own this business, and we have a site here in Stevenage. We have a site in Tring in Hertfordshire and in Luton as well. So we have a small sort of marketeer, if you like, and we have the three businesses. But yeah, ultimately they own the business, and they have a franchise agreement with BMW, and then we sell and service cars through that arrangement. So yeah.
Manjit, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, do Sikhs buy BMWs, or are they still stuck with this Mercedes chungi lag rahi hai?
It has changed. I mean, I think the older generation, they still love their Mercedes, but we're seeing a lot of the younger Sikhs now. You know, they love a BMW. So more and more so, you know, from a used and a new point of view. And I think over the certainly last 1 or 2 years, we've seen a lot more, which is good, which is refreshing to see. I think when they come in and don't necessarily always deal with me initially, but they find out, or, you know, one of my sales staff says, I'm going to go and talk to the manager, and when they say, well, Siddharji, you know, it's like, it's kind of fun. And yeah, I normally go out and say hello and try and get involved. But yeah, no, we are selling more than I probably when I first joined in BMW, certainly.
I find that usually, I think Merc is better for the older generation. The youngsters, I mean, I include my son in this, as you know, that he's got a BMW rather than a Merc.
Yeah.
But there's one particular Mercedes that I do want to talk about, is this one over here. I've seen lots of the 640, the big ones now, Sikhs buying them.
Yeah.
So let's walk this way and talk about this particular one.
Yeah, this is a special one. So this has just been launched in the UK. This is the top of the range. This is an M6, so a very quick, but also a very sort of special car in terms of the way the styling is. So you see from the 4 exhaust, it's going to be a quick car. So yeah, no, this is definitely one for you, Gurdeep.
What engine is this one then? Is it quite big?
Yeah, no, this is a 4.4 V8, but it's a twin turbo.
Ah, okay.
So it's producing over 500 horsepower. So it's only a few years ago that sort of power would be coming out of a Ferrari or something like that. So it's pretty significant. Yeah. No,
it's a very, very nice looking car. So I assume no Sikh has bought this one yet.
No, but I'm hoping. That would be great to see, right?
No, I think it's a really nice car, and this colour seems to be in at the moment.
Yeah, we've seen a big shift. So over the last probably 5 or 6 years, I mean the white colour was very popular in California and in the Far East, but certainly in the UK now, you see a lot more of the sportier models. Certainly, you see white. And I think in this case, where it's got a carbon roof, the contrast with the white and the black works very well. So
no, I think it's very nice. I was quite surprised. I was surprised when I came up here that you'd kept the best car upstairs, I think. So let's move on to one other car, which is not, I assume, part of the show. I mean, it's just a showroom car, but it's not actually you're not selling it or anything.
No, we have a very good customer of ours who is a collector. He's a collector of BMWs, and he gets his cars looked after by us in our service department. Probably about a year or so ago, we did an event where we did a car launch, and we asked him for something to have on display. And since then, he's very kindly said, "Well, I've got a collection of good 40 BMWs. Some of them are very rare. I'd be happy to have something in your showroom." And right now we have this what we call a CSL,
right.
From the 70s. There's only probably 100 odd in the whole world. So this is kind of a rare car now. But he keeps his cars, like you see here, in really good condition. So it's I wouldn't want to estimate a value or anything on it, certainly, but it catches everyone's eye. I mean, having sort of older cars, we get a lot of people coming in here who look at the new cars, of course, but they see something like this, and it really catches their eye. And it reminds them of probably what they used to see when they were younger, and say, "Oh yeah, I remember those cars." So
it's a left-hand drive.
Yes, it's a left-hand drive car. So this particular one was probably the start of what we now see as the M cars. It's probably one of the first M cars, if you like, that was brought out. Very lightweight, very powerful. But yeah, the styling is something. Hey.
Yeah, I think it's it's like your classic cars, isn't it? That's why. But it's I can understand why somebody would want to keep that and show it off in the showroom. So no,
it's nice. It's nice that we have these relationships locally where people are happy to have their car on display here. It's good. It certainly is nice to get involved with people who are owners, if you like, of BMWs, not just always selling new cars. So no, it's very good.
No, okay. So we've really come to the end of the show. Is there anything else you want to say something to us, or you want to, apart from asking every Sikh to buy a BMW?
Yeah. Well, I was going to start with this Sikh here first. We'll go downstairs and do the paperwork, and you can take one with you. But no, it's been. I'm really proud. I mean, when you called me and when we spoke about it and said, can we come to where you work and get an idea of your life, but also get an idea of where you work. I think it's personally, I feel very proud, and I feel very proud to be a Sikh and be in this position. But also, it's nice that Sikh Channel has taken the time and made these programs where we can showcase some sort of different angles, if you like, of what Sikhi is and how people in this country have set themselves up. So yeah, no, thank you.
I think one of the most interesting words you used was actually Sardarji, because that word really means honourable gentleman. And I think it's very rare for people to use that word. Sardarji aage. It's a very sort of traditional word. No, thank you very much, and for allowing us to come to the BMW setup. And it's impressive by any standard. So thank you, Manjit, very much. Well, with that, I want to thank Manjit Singh Ahluwalia for allowing us to be at the BMW garage here in Stevenage. let's see, where this type of program takes us. So I want to thank the viewers and keep watching Sikh Spectrum, and let's see what's coming up in the coming weeks on the program. So Manjit, thank you very much. Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki